the progress has been uneven and also there are very serious shortfalls. There are several ways in which different groups have tried to interpret the Millennium Development Goals. Some see them as global targets and as intermediate targets. In other words, halving poverty is not the end of the story. We want to eliminate poverty altogether, and getting rid of halving hunger is not the end of the story, and so on and so forth. So these should be understood as intermediate targets, and these have been identified for achievement by the year 2015. We have about less than 6 years left to try to achieve these targets. Now, as far as poverty is concerned, coming back to the first goal, we have very contradictory data coming out from international organizations suggesting, for example, that poverty has come down, while on the other hand, hunger has gone up. Now, how do you reconcile these two figures, considering that poverty is defined principally in terms of avoiding hunger? Okay, so obviously there's something wrong with the data, something wrong with measurement, and so on and so forth. Another very important indication of the problems of measuring all this is that for the year 2005, initially under the old international comparison program, the World Bank was saying that there were over 900 million poor people on the dollar a day line as of the year 2005. But with its new data, which it released in 2009, now it says that the number of poor people is actually closer to 1.4 billion in 2005. So for the same year, the number of poor people has actually increased by half, simply on the basis of new data. I'm not even sure we can say with a great deal of certainty that it's better data. Hopefully it's better data, but all this underlines the problems of much of this measurement. In other words, we really need to remind ourselves that many people may be, whatever poverty line you have, while you might move a lot of people above that poverty line, many of them are just barely above that poverty line. And if you have some improvements in measurements, they may fall below the poverty line, or if you have a very fickle change of circumstances, a crop failure, for example, extreme weather conditions, and so on, the livelihoods of these people can be very, very seriously undermined. So clearly, what we know about achievement on the Millennium Development Goals suggests that development, broadly speaking, has not made all that much progress. Many of the favorite poverty programs which have come out, been associated, for example, with the Washington Consensus, are very, very seriously flawed and have probably made very, very little dent on poverty. For example, the emphasis on a narrow emphasis on microcredit may have done a lot to alleviate suffering for people who are very poor, but it has not really done all that much to lift them out of poverty. Another favorite associated with an NRI professor in the United States is what is called bottom of the pyramid marketing. Okay, where actually no value is added, but through a series of marketing gimmicks, it is hoped that somehow poverty will be alleviated. A third favorite is the strengthening of property rights through entitling land and so on, which is supposed somehow to alleviate poverty in a very significant fashion. And again, the evidence leaves a great deal to be desired as far as that kind of method is concerned. So we find that this report has actually taken a critical assessment, but hopefully in a constructive way, to improve the efforts which are being taken to alleviate poverty. The last set of issues which I think are very important to emphasize are those associated with M.D.G 8. M.D.G 8 talks about improved international cooperation to alleviate poverty and to make progress on the other Millennium Development Goals. And there has been very uneven progress as far as this is concerned. For example, we know that ODA, Official Development Assistance, is way below the target which was committed almost 4 decades ago at the UN of 0.7 of 1%. The current level is about 0.3 of 1%, which is less than half. How this is going to reach 0.7 by the year 2015 is anybody's guess. We also find that most aid is actually not going to the most deserving or the poorest or anything like that. We find that the biggest recipients of aid are those who are military allies. So we find, for example, that right now Iraq, Afghanistan, Colombia, Israel and Egypt are the 5 largest recipients of American aid. And this, of course, tremendously suggests that a lot of this aid has got to do with other purposes rather than with alleviating poverty and so on and so forth. There's been relatively little progress on improving the conditions for technological development and technology transfer. The Essential Medicines Initiative, which is an exception under the TRIPS agreement, for example, has made modest progress in terms of reducing the cost of generic medicines, which are particularly needed to deal with a whole range of areas. Now, one important success story is the reduction of deaths associated with measles. That has come down tremendously. Another important success story has been the commitment of significant funding for research and so on associated with malaria. Malaria is one of the many tropical diseases which have been neglected. The pharmaceutical industry and others have not been interested in this because it affects people mainly in the tropical areas, which are largely who are relatively poor people in developing countries.